come inside the fence if you'd like, and up to it.
Yeah, what time is
Just
it?
stay behind the
Can I
piece.
call you
There's
back?
plenty of room. We're good.
All right, thank you.
So, welcome. My name's Mike. I work with the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation. Welcome to the Winchester battlefields. Today we're sort of, doing a soft opening of our new second Winchester stuff, but all, this specific spot would have had some relevance to both the second and third battles of Winchester. So, stay behind me. Don't go too much closer, but you guys are fine anywhere behind that gate. So, we're short on cannoneers today, so I'm going to talk and run up and work the gun and come back. But I wanted to let you guys know that this is a replica of a 10-pound Parrott rifle. Okay, these rifle field pieces were probably some of the most deadly instruments brought to the fields during the American Civil War. They're companion pieces, the ones that you see, the bronze guns. If you go to battlefields, the ones that have all turned green, those are primarily smoothbore cannons. They were meant for up close or closer support of infantry, and they had maximum range 2,000 yards, maybe 2,500 at the most, but their real prime effective range was 1,500 yards and closer. The rifle pieces, on the other hand, could fire much further. The rifle barrel versus a smooth barrel. Same thing with muskets versus rifled or rifled muskets. The range was a lot further and the projectile was different. A rifled field piece had effective range of almost as far as it could see, but their maximum range was between 1 mile and 1.25 miles. So it was over 2.5 times and sometimes 3 times as much as a smoothbore piece. This tube actually would fire a projectile over 7,000 yards. But the carriages couldn't be elevated enough. If they used this on a ship, the top range of the charts they used to determine when they would want the shell to explode did go up to 7,000 yards. All right, I'm going to go up. We're going to fire the gun twice. I'll do a little bit of a talk about some of the things you see here and what we're firing. Then we'll fire one more time, and then you guys can come up and check out the piece and take pictures and stuff. So we're running a little behind schedule this morning, so this demo will be quicker than the other ones that I'll do at 11, 1, and 4. All right, so I'm going to go up and fire the piece a couple times, and then I'll come back and talk to you some more. All right, load. Shell, 1,500 yards. loud, but not that loud. You'll be fine out there. You're outside of the zone. All right. 3, 2, 1, fire. Michael.
Yes.
Keep me so I don't run over.
We're at 10:15 right now. We're doing great.
All right, okay. All right, everyone. So here, I explained a little bit a couple minutes ago about the difference in range that Civil War artillery pieces were capable of firing projectiles. So this is a sample of a 12-pound case shot. So this would have come out of a 12-pound Napoleon, one of the most used, well, absolutely by far the most used smoothbore gun of the Civil War was a 12-pound Napoleon. So prior to the Civil War, they really started to work on rifling, and it increased the range, as I was saying, over 3 times as much. So the gun we just fired one of these. This is an example of a 12 or a 10-pound Parrott shell. Okay, inside of this was actually black powder and smaller pieces of projectile like this. This is an actual saw through the middle, so this is half of a Hotchkiss shell, or a Schenkel shell rather, different version, but this would have been fired primarily out of a 3-inch ordnance rifle, which was the most common rifle piece. They kind of competed with the Parrotts for who had the most, but they were both rifled, had range of over a mile. So if you're here, we could put shells down on the house at Hackwood, and the last time we did demos here, the trees weren't as full. We could hit 81 from here with shells. All right, so, but when you fired Civil War artillery, very rarely were you trying to land the shell on something or whatever. About the only time that would happen is if you were firing into a town with solid shot or bolt. So bolt would have been something like this. It would have had grooves all the way around it, and it was a solid piece of steel. So our visitor center is made out of brick. So if there were enemy soldiers in that building, I would hit it with bolt or solid shot, because if I'm inside there and the building's getting knocked down around me, I'm going to want to get out. They did not have a lot of percussion shells, which meaning when they would come and land, the percussion would make them go off. They were trying to develop those, but with how we load the piece, it was a tricky endeavor, because when we loaded a Civil War artillery piece, and you'll see the man up there on the right holding one of these, it's called a sponge rammer. On one end was a lamb's wool or sheep's wool covered sponge head, which was held damp. That's put down the barrel before and after each shot. Okay? On the other end is the rammer part, and you'll see it has a concave end. That was to fit around a fuse, but if I was the cannoneer and pushing a shell in with a percussion thing on the end, and they did lose guys like this when they were developing it, the shell might go off and kill me. So percussion shells weren't very prevalent until after the Civil War. So if I was shooting at us from over there, I wouldn't actually be trying to hit the artillery piece or land a shell around here. I would want a shell to explode. I explained that these shells actually had powder and musket balls and pieces in there. Well, they had fuse systems that were timed. So if I wanted a shell to hit us, I would want it to go off somewhere about the height of these trees above our heads. So I would time it with, and they used a lot of math. They had charts. They knew distances. So if I wanted to shoot 28 or 2,900 yards, I would use a 5-second fuse. So in theory, when we load the shell, the powder goes off, the gases would come around, and they would actually ignite the end of the fuse. I had a fuse around here somewhere. The fuse would burn down, and in theory explode after 5 seconds in the air. So a 5.5 second or 5 second fuse, I would want to explode somewhere 20, 30, 40 or 50 feet above our head, because when that shell goes off, all these pieces of stuff are going to go down and possibly hit us or hit our horses, which would immobilize our artillery, either by killing the men and or the horses. Here it is. So this is an example of a Confederate fuse. It's basically sort of like a cardboard drinking straw. It had wax and finite black powder in it, and they had it so it would burn down and in theory explode after 5 seconds. Civil War artillery, other than rifled musket balls, by far had more, caused more casualties than any other form of weapon during the Civil War. Prior to the Civil War, the Mexican War, the American Revolution, War of 1812, it was mostly musket balls, but they got a lot closer, and you had a lot of bayonet wounds. Bayonets were neat, they're a great tool. They're intimidating looking. So if you had 300, 400, or even 1,000 men coming at you with a line of bayonets and you're waiting for them, it's pretty intimidating. Those tactics slowly started to erase as the Civil War progressed, because much like I'm explaining the distance that we could hit you with a rifled artillery piece, well, rifled long arms for the infantry, same thing. I mean, prime range for a smoothbore musket, and the British tactics would have them come up, fire at you from around 100 yards away, and then a fast walk with bayonets. So, but now, Civil War rifled muskets, they had killing power at up to 1,000 yards away. 500 yards was where you really started getting into prime range. So, point being, there weren't a lot of bayonet wounds, and if you go to a reenactment these days, and I've been reenacting for longer than I care to admit, they didn't really get that close. And here, on the other side of Redbud, in the middle field, we had some of the heaviest and closest fighting of the entire Civil War right here on this battlefield. There were soldiers who fought in around Devil's Den and the wheat field and triangular field at Gettysburg, and they also fought here in September of 1864 and said the fighting here was way more heavy than they experienced at Gettysburg. There was 2 or 3 accounts I've read said this was the heaviest fighting they saw during the entire Civil War. So, all right, I'm gonna go up, we're gonna fire the gun one more time, and then you guys can come up, get pictures, ask the cannoneers, whatever. Before I do that, any questions on what I've raced through so far? All right, well, you guys know it all then. All right, we're done. Yeah. All right, so bear with me. We'll fire one more time. We'll clear the piece, and you guys can come up. Load. All right, everyone. 3, 2, 1. Bye. All right, everyone.